The ballroom echoed with cruel laughter. You'll never measure up. Not for him, not for anyone. The words cut like glass into Mariah's heart. Her hands shook as she clutched the folder she had worked on for weeks, her one chance to prove her worth. But all her effort crumbled before her eyes. Standing in the center of the office lobby was her identical twin, Celine, with her company director, Adrian, Mariah's own fiancé, his arm wrapped around Celine's waist as if she belonged there. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a betrayal, calculated, deliberate, merciless. You're with him? Mariah's voice cracked, barely holding back the tidal wave of emotion inside her. Celine tilted her head smugly, smoothing her blazer as though she had already claimed her prize. Why not? You thought he loved you? Please. He tolerated you. I showed him what real ambition looks like. Adrian didn't flinch. He didn't deny it. He just smiled faintly, confirming everything Mariah feared. I gave you both everything, Mariah whispered, her tears stinging hot. That's your flaw, Celine sneered, stepping closer. You give, you sacrifice, and you think it earns loyalty. It doesn't. Life replaces weak people like you. And then Celine turned her chin toward the end of the hallway. A man in gray overalls pushed a mop quietly, unnoticed, head bent. Why don't you marry him? Celine mocked, pointing with her manicured nail. The janitor, perfect for you, ordinary, invisible, forgotten. Adrian chuckled cruelly beside her, fueling Celine's triumph. Mariah's face burned. She wanted to run to vanish, but her legs locked in place. Then the mop stopped. The man set it aside and walked toward her with deliberate steps. His voice was calm but unshakable. You don't deserve this. Mariah blinked through her tears. Don't pity me, she whispered. It's not pity, he replied firmly. It's truth. They don't see your worth, but I do. His words jolted her. At her lowest moment, no one had ever spoken to her like this. Why would you say that? You don't even know me. His eyes held steady. Because I know what it's like to be underestimated, to be told you're nothing. But you're not nothing, Mariah. You're stronger than they'll ever admit. Her breath shook. Why are you telling me this? He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Do you want revenge? The word froze her. Revenge. Dangerous. Unthinkable. Yet it burned inside her chest. What are you talking about? She asked. I mean what I say, he replied. If you want your life back, if you want them to regret every cruel word, marry me. Mariah let out a broken laugh, tears streaking her cheeks. Marry you? I don't even know you. You're a janitor and I... She stopped, unable to say the word worthless aloud. His jaw tightened. You see a janitor. You see a janitor? But I am more than that. Marry me, and you will never bow your head again. Her heart pounded. Hope flickered against despair. Why me? She whispered. Because I see you, he said simply. Truly see you. Celine's mocking laugh echoed from across the lobby. The shame boiling in Mariah's chest twisted into something sharper, fire. Her voice trembled, but the words came out. Yes. The moment she spoke, the air shifted. Her life had tilted into a path with no return. Mariah's knees nearly buckled after the word left her lips. Her throat was dry, her palms damp, her heartbeat frantic. What have I just done? She thought. Her voice broke as she whispered, I don't even know your name. The man's eyes softened, though his expression stayed steady. Elias, he answered simply. Then, lowering his tone with a weight that seemed immovable, he added, and I'd known your name since the first day you walked into this place. I saw how you worked while they dismissed you. I saw how you carried yourself even when no one cared. Don't believe for a second you were invisible to me. Mariah's chest tightened. Her breath came shallow. This is madness, she murmured. Maybe I've really lost my mind. Maybe, Elias said, his voice calm yet unwavering. But you weren't a fool. You were wronged. Hold on to that. Everything blurred after that moment. Hours later, she stood beneath the dim fluorescent glow of a courthouse clerk's office. The ceremony was plain, mechanical. Papers were signed. Vows recited with little feeling from the clerk. When asked if she took Elias as her husband, Mariah's lips trembled. I do, she whispered. A thin band slid onto her finger, cold against her skin. The papers were stamped, shoved across the desk without care. That was it. It was done. I just married a man I barely know, Mariah thought, staring at the ring. Am I completely insane? When they stepped into the night air, her world shifted again. 4 sleek black cars stood waiting at the curb, perfectly aligned. No pedestrians lingered. The street was eerily silent, as if cleared for their departure. A back door opened. Elias guided her gently inside. The leather seat swallowed her as the door clicked shut. Her reflection in the tinted window looked pale, frightened, almost unrecognizable. What if I've just walked into a trap? What if I've destroyed the last scraps of my life? The convoy glided through the city, leaving the crowded lights behind for darker, quieter roads. At last they slowed before towering iron gates that swung open without a sound. Behind them lay a secluded villa, shrouded by stone walls and ancient trees. Guards stood watch at every corner, motionless and disciplined. Inside, lanterns glowed warmly, marble floors gleamed, and the faint scent of jasmine lingered in the air. Servants appeared silently, offering water and towels. Mariah sat rigid, barely touching anything. "This place," she whispered. "What is it? Stop," Elias replied calmly. "We'll rest, then continue." The villa felt both safe and suffocating. She sat stiff in her chair, staring at the ring, her mind screaming, "This is madness. I've truly lost my mind." Not long after, Elias returned. "It's time," he said simply. The cars rolled out once again, deeper into the countryside. Hours blurred into trees, shadows, silence. Finally, they reached a private airstrip lit by floodlights. A silver jet waited at the edge, its engines humming. Mariah's stomach flipped. "Elias, what is this?" He didn't explain. He only extended his hand. "Trust me." Her legs shook as she climbed the staircase. Inside, the cabin glowed with cream leather and polished wood. Crystal glasses sparkled on the table. She sank into a seat, numb as the engines roared. The ground fell away. Clouds swallowed the windows. "I don't understand," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know who you really are. What have I done?" Elias finally turned toward her. His gaze carried the weight of certainty. "You haven't lost your mind, Mariah. You've found your freedom. My name is Elias Draven. From the first day I saw you, I knew who you were. I saw your strength. That's why you're here. That's why you're mine." Her breath caught. The name rang faintly in her memory, snippets of headlines she once skimmed, whispers in corridors about unreachable wealth and influence. Elias Draven. The jet soared higher, his words echoing like a vow. "From this day forward, you will never bow your head again." The days that followed blurred into something Mariah had never known: peace. At Elias's villa, nestled deep in the hills, life carried a different rhythm. No one mocked her. No one belittled her. Instead of sharp words, there was quiet laughter shared over candlelit dinners, long walks through manicured gardens at dusk, and mornings where Elias insisted on pouring her coffee. "You've carried everyone else your whole life," he would say, gently sliding the cup toward her. "Now let me carry you." At first, Mariah resisted. The echoes of Selini's ridicule still haunted her, whispering that she was weak, replaceable, foolish. But little by little, the edges of her pain dulled. Elias never treated her as broken or fragile. He listened, really listened. When she spoke of her dreams, her fears, the pieces of herself she had buried to survive, for the first time in her life, she felt seen. 2 months slipped by like a dream. Mariah almost believed the shadows of her past had vanished, until the letter arrived. It was delivered by one of the guards, sealed in thick ivory paper embossed with gold. The handwriting across the front was sharp, familiar, merciless. Celine's. Mariah's fingers trembled as she unfolded the page. "Since you disappeared from that tiny apartment of yours, everyone assumed you'd given up. Why wouldn't you? You never were strong. I didn't bother looking. Why waste my time? But now you must come to my wedding. It will be the grandest this city has ever seen. Everyone important will be there. You wouldn't want to miss it." The arrogance leapt off the page. Celine hadn't even wondered where her sister truly was, too busy flaunting Adrian, the man she had stolen. Elias read the letter over her shoulder. His jaw tightened, though his voice stayed steady. "She wants a spectacle. She expects you to crawl back, broken." Mariah swallowed hard, fire rising where sorrow once lived. "Then we'll give her a spectacle," she said quietly. "Just not the one she expects." The day of Celine's wedding arrived like thunder across the city. She had chosen the private airport as her stage, determined to outshine every society wedding before her. Red carpets rolled across the hangar floor. Chandeliers hung from steel beams, sparkling against the polished surface. Guests arrived in glittering gowns and sharp tuxedos, photographers scrambling to capture every detail. At the center stood Celine, radiant in a white gown that shimmered under the lights. Her smile was sharp, victorious, her chin lifted as though the world already belonged to her. At her side, Adrian looked smug in his tailored suit, every inch the prize she believed she had won. Whispers rippled as the guests glanced toward the entrance, waiting for Mariah to appear. Alone, humiliated, a shadow of her former self. But the air shifted, engines roared across the runway. Heads turned as a silver jet descended, its body gleaming under the afternoon sun. Gasps spread like wildfire as it rolled to a stop just beyond the hangar. The staircase lowered, silence fell. The first figure to emerge was Elias Draven himself, dressed in a flawless tailored suit, his presence commanding, undeniable. Murmurs rose instantly. Some recognized him, others whispered frantically as they pieced the truth together. Then came Mariah. She descended the steps in a flowing black gown that caught the light like liquid silk. Her posture was straight, her hand tucked firmly into Elias's arm. Cameras flashed wildly, desperate to capture the impossible. The forgotten twin, arriving not broken but radiant, beside a man no one dared mock. Celine's smile faltered. Her bouquet trembled in her grip. "No," she hissed under her breath. "This isn't possible." Adrian's face drained of color. He knew the name, Elias Draven, a man whose influence eclipsed his own tenfold. Sweat prickled his forehead as reality sank in. Mariah walked with steady steps into the hangar. Every eye locked on her, every whisper silenced. The hangar seemed to hold its breath as Mariah stopped only a few steps away from her twin. "You invited me to be humiliated," Mariah said, her voice steady, carrying across the glittering crowd. "You thought I'd come here small, broken, alone. But look at me now. I stand beside the man you once mocked, the man you dismissed without a second thought." Celine's face flushed crimson, her lips trembling. You can't." But Elias cut her off, his voice calm and cutting. She can. She already has. Once you pointed at me and laughed, calling me a janitor. Today you stand before the same man. But now you bow to the truth of who I am." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Guests exchanged frantic whispers, some snapping photos, others staring wide-eyed at the reversal unfolding before them. Mariah's gaze never left her sister's. She took one step closer, her words sharp as steel. "You said I would never be enough. But look at you now, Celine. On the day you thought would crown you, all anyone sees is your shame. Your cruelty has destroyed you." Celine's bouquet slipped from her hands, the petals scattering across the red carpet. Adrian shifted uncomfortably at her side, avoiding Mariah's eye. His jaw clenched, but sweat glistened at his temples. "This was supposed to be my day," Celine whispered hoarsely, her voice shaking. "Mine." Mariah straightened, her chin lifting with quiet power. "You thought today would haunt me. Instead it will haunt you. Because this moment, this spectacle, you created it. You sent me the invitation. And now, you stand in the ruins of your own triumph." A suffocating silence spread through the hall. Every camera, every eye was fixed on Celine, her once radiant smile shattered into fragments of fear and humiliation. Elias reached for Mariah's hand, his grip warm and steady. Together they walked forward, past Celine, past Adrian, past a stunned crowd, heads held high. The photographers turned frantically, capturing every step. For once, Mariah wasn't the shadow in the background. She was the storm, the fire, the woman who refused to break. As the hangar doors opened and sunlight spilled onto the red carpet, Mariah realized something she had never felt before. She hadn't just survived, she had conquered. Outside the hangar, the world roared with flashes of cameras and the chaos of reporters shouting questions. But Mariah didn't flinch. For the first time in her life, she didn't bow her head or hide her face. She walked with Elias, each step steady, each movement deliberate, as though the entire city now moved to her rhythm. Celine's voice echoed faintly from behind, a desperate cry swallowed by the noise. Adrian tried to pull her away from the collapsing spectacle, but the damage was already carved into stone. The images had been captured, the humiliation immortalized. The moment Mariah had once dreaded, the day her sister intended to use as her final destruction, had turned into her ultimate rebirth. Elias opened the door of the sleek car waiting outside. As she slid in, Mariah caught her reflection in the tinted glass. Mariah leaned back against the seat, her hands still clasped in Elias's. "I never thought I would feel this way," she admitted softly. "For so long I believed her words, that I was invisible, replaceable." Elias turned to her, his gaze unwavering. "You were never invisible. The world tried to make you believe that, but it was a lie. And now they see you as you truly are." Her eyes stung, but this time the tears weren't from pain. They were from relief, from release. In the weeks that followed, the city buzzed with the story of the wedding that had crumbled under its own arrogance. Whispers spread of Elias Draven's unexpected appearance, of the forgotten twin who arrived in black silk and stole the spotlight. Society pages speculated. Journalists scrambled. But Mariah ignored it all. For the first time in her life, she no longer needed anyone's approval. She didn't live in Celine's shadow. She didn't carry Adrian's betrayal like a chain. She had risen above it all. At dusk one evening, she stood on the balcony of the villa, the horizon painted in gold and crimson. Elias joined her, silent for a moment before sliding his arm gently around her shoulders. "You've carried others long enough," he murmured. "Now, it's your time to stand in the light." Mariah tilted her head against his shoulder, her heart steady at last. Her sister's cruelty had almost broken her. But in trying to destroy her, Celine had unknowingly given her the chance to rebuild stronger than ever. Mariah wasn't just surviving anymore. She was living, powerfully, freely, without fear. And for the first time in her life, she knew one thing with unshakable certainty. She would never bow her head again. The scandal of Celine's ruined wedding spread like wildfire. For weeks, the city couldn't stop whispering about the twin who had returned from the ashes, hand in hand with Elias Draven, the man no one dared underestimate. But power and envy always stirred new storms. Late one evening, a letter arrived at the villa. No crest, no signature, just a single line scrawled in unfamiliar ink. "Not everyone bows to Draven. Be careful who you trust." Mariah's stomach tightened as she read it. For a moment, the fragile piece she had found trembled at the edges. Elias took the note from her hand, his expression unreadable. "This city doesn't forgive easily," he said quietly. "When you rise, someone always tries to pull you back down." The warning echoed in Mariah's mind long after the paper had been burned. She had faced her sister, conquered her past, and stepped into a world of power she never imagined. But in that world, enemies hid behind masks, and betrayal could come from the last person she expected. And deep down she knew her story wasn't over. It was only the beginning.